Hello everyone, Alec DeLorean here, and I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. Now in today's video we have 5 tips for Glikkin. These tips will hopefully help new players, veteran players, and it's helped to prepare for PC players. I hope that these tips were very helpful, and if you let me know in the comments below if they do help you, that'd be greatly appreciated. But as always, if there are any tips that don't make the list and you feel like are valuable or should make the list, be sure to put them in the comments below, as it would help me or anyone else in the community. But before we get into it, if you would like to join the Patreon or Discord, the links are in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video, this content, and all things Star Wars and Marvel related, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the video. Okay, so 5 tips for Glikkin, extremely fun hunter. Tip number 1. Okay, so I'll go through my favorite combination of, or my rotation of abilities. So the best thing to do is you start in invisible, right? Before you engage the enemy, you're invisible. You do your first hit with your basic attack to do your big crit, and then you either hit 2 or 3 times if you can for the combo bonus. But if you can hit twice and then they start to dash away or something, then 2 is fine, but 2 or 3 times depending on the enemy as well. Then I use slash and dash to dash through them for the extra 55 damage and apply the damage over time on them, the dot, if you want to. Then if they're still alive, I finish off with the blade launcher, so they've probably got like 10, 15, 20 health at this point. Then you just use your little wrist launcher to finish them off, tickle them at the end, and confirm your kill. So that's the best rotation I like to do. Invisible into your melee attack, into your slash and dash ability, into your blade launcher ability. And that is tip number 1. Number 2, I like to do this at the very start of the match, because slash and dash doesn't really have a long cooldown, but if you use slash and dash at the start of the round before using invisibility. So when the character first came out, at the very start of the round, it count down, hit go, and then as soon as it does, I use invisibility to get around the map, as you do. But slash and dash doesn't really have a long cooldown, so if you use that at the beginning, dash really far forwards, then use invisibility, by the time you see your first enemy or even get close to your first enemy, slash and dash is going to be off cooldown, and you still need to do your opener abilities and attacks first. So it's always worth getting that extra distance at the very beginning of the match to help you with your positioning and seeking out the enemy supports. So I think that's a really useful tip. Then tip number 3 is to save your ultimate for the low mobility hunters, mostly tanks because they're low mobility mostly, and for on the objective zones, so like power control and dynamic control. I say this because I see it a lot of Glikkins where they use their ultimate because they have it in a fight, but it's against, say, a Zaina or an Arantol or Reeve, who you put it down and they just either dash away, jump away, or roll away, and it's like, okay, I've just wasted my ultimate because they're out of it in 0.5 seconds, right? Whereas if you use it on a Sentinel who doesn't really have any mobility, a Char who doesn't have any mobility, they physically have to run through it to get out of it, and obviously they're going to take an increased amount of damage because of that, and you're most likely going to kill them unless Char obviously heals himself. So yeah, I would just save it for tanks who have low mobility or anyone who has low mobility really. And it's good for objective zones like dynamic control and power control because it forces enemies off the point, which always helps because you'll most likely win that point. And then tip number 4 is if the enemy is still getting away with low health, it's still worth going invisible to catch up and then confirm the kill. So like I said with tip 1 is I finish off with the blade launcher. There might be 10, 15 health left, so you might want to just tickle them to death, right? Whereas if they have a decent amount of health left and they're only just starting to run away, your invisibility is off cooldown, so why not just use it again to confirm the kill? Because if you try to chase them normally, you don't get the extra crit damage when you first hit them, and you're not going to catch up to them as fast because whilst you're invisible, you're running really fast. So if it's fine to use your invisibility again whilst you're in the middle of a fight to get that extra damage, because confirming a kill might be the difference between you finishing off the scorer and then the scorer is stopping healing their team, and then your team can then benefit from that because the enemy team aren't getting healed anymore. So it's like a cycle, like a knock-on effect, a butterfly effect. If you can finish off your enemies faster, it might help in the long run of the game. And then tip number 5 is, even though Glikkin does very high damage versus tanks, it is still worth targeting the supports first. Yes, he's really good against tanks because his critical damage it's not based on a static stat, like it doesn't just do 80 damage normally and then 120 damage critical. Depending on the enemy's health is how much damage Glikkin does with his critical. So obviously tanks with lots of health, you're going to do even more damage than if you critical against the scorer, but none of that matters if they're still getting healed by the enemy scorer anyway. They're just going to out heal that. So it's always worth sneaking up on the scorer, taking them out very, very quickly, I will say. Glikkin is really, really good against scorers and Zanas and Sprockets. Then once you've done that, your invisibility might come back, and then you could just use it on the tanks after that anyway, and then you can absolutely melt them down. So Glikkin is really, really good, but still, go for sports first, always, always, always. There you go. There is my 5 tips for Glikkin. Hopefully these are useful. Glikkin is one of the most fun hunters that has been added in the Arena Pass for a while. I think I've had the most fun with him on an Arena Pass launch of most of all, to be fair. But yeah, anyway, hopefully these are helpful to any new players, veteran players, and PC players looking to get into the game. And as always, if there are any tips that aren't involved in this list, be sure to put them in the comments below, as it might help me or someone else in the community. But I won't keep you any longer though, so if you'd like to join the Patreon or Discord, the links are in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video, this content, and all things Star Wars and Marvel related, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.